Hello, good evening. I hope everybody is doing well. I know I am showing up today after many days, and thank you so much for the lovely messages on my phone. I've been hearing from a lot of my friends, and they've been asking me why I'm not coming live these days or sending new episodes to everybody about Quarantine Connect 2020. First up, let me inform you that I have wound up all the episodes for Quarantine Connect 2020 because I felt that it stretched over a couple of months and that was sufficient. So I will be launching a new show soon. And about my live sessions, they will continue as usual. I took a break. I wanted to relax a little and sort out some things and plan for the next things that are coming up. So I'm so happy to be with you tonight, and I hope that you will learn a few points related to entrepreneurship and what an entrepreneur during these unprecedented times should do, and how we all need to pivot and make changes to what we do already. So I know a lot of people must have talked about this before, and even in my show, a lot of my friends have discussed some of the challenges that we have been facing. But let's go on with a casual conversation, and you're free to ask us as many questions as you like so that we can help you with some answers and in sorting out your problems. I have received too many requests from my friends regarding new businesses. Many of them launched their new brands very, very recently, let's say a few months back. And all of a sudden, this COVID-19 came and they couldn't monetize their products, their services properly. They couldn't judge how many people would be interested, like, market analysis and need analysis and all of that. Since they couldn't go ahead with that, it was difficult for them to now establish their brand authority, create sufficient awareness, make any sales at all. So keeping all this in view, I thought that I'll have Rob with me to discuss. So he's here today and he's going to give us a special time. Hi, Rob, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me along. Good evening.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you with me again, and I believe that it's going to be a very interesting conversation.
I certainly hope so.
So let's begin with what's an entrepreneurial mindset and how different it is from what other people have, or what thoughts other people have on their minds usually.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I suppose the first place I would think about doing this is probably a horrible habit of people who are psychologists is whenever people say anything, we go, well, hold on a minute. What do you mean by this? What's your definition of this? And I'm going to do that exactly now because I think entrepreneurial is really key. People often think that entrepreneurs are these people who do something totally new. It's never been done before. It's never been seen before. And that's just a fallacy. Richard Branson, let's take him for an example. He is a fantastic entrepreneur. He didn't really do anything particularly new. He did cola that had already been done before. He did an airline, that's been done. Trains, that's been done. Media, that's been done. So I think first things first, when you think about being an entrepreneur, don't think you have to reinvent the wheel. It can be something that someone's done before, but you're just looking to do it better, do it differently, or both.
Yes.
And so I think that's the first thing to do is get that definition in your mind, because straight away that's a barrier for people. They go, oh, I can't be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, you're right, Rob. I was giving advice to one of my friends after attending one of my workshops. They came to me for a one-on-one session to discuss that they have a great business idea they want to launch. So they told me that they're going to start with a training center, a tuition training center, where students will receive direct trainings or education or tuition from different experts. And they were afraid that somebody might have already worked on this idea of starting out with an online tuition center. Now there are unlimited people doing this already. So it's not important. Let me say it's not always important for a business to be entirely unique and totally new. It's all right to launch something which is there, which is already there, and a lot of people are making money from it. The new thing that somebody can do is perhaps innovate in such a way or provide a service in a different way that sets them apart from other people who are already doing it. So that can solve the thing. But having a 100% unique business idea for millions of people at one time is not possible. I personally believe it's not possible.
I think very, very rare. If you think you're going to make the next, Facebook, probably not. But as you say, I mean, this is what 7 billion people on the planet. It's going to be pretty tricky to do something someone hasn't done before. But I think you're absolutely right. It's about going, okay, how can we just do it differently, just slightly differently? Or if you're just going to do it better, what are you going to do that's better? And I think a big thing for me about being an entrepreneur is just what's your value? What are you doing that just makes you different? And one of the biggest things I'd say to people is, if you're looking to be an entrepreneur, you're looking to set out by yourself, you have to be aware of the value that you provide. And remember, and I can't stress this enough, often people buy you, not the product. I mean, slightly different if we are getting more into the product side of things. If you're looking to have to be an affiliate of some company on Amazon or something like that, then it might be slightly different. But a lot of the time, particularly if we are B2C in particular, and we're service based, you're selling yourself. People are buying you. So how are you going to distinguish yourself? What's going to be your brand? That's what people really buy.
Yes, true. It's more or less like, sometimes, no, more than sometimes, it's either a long top or a short top that's in fashion. And then all the brands go on copying the same kind of style in different fabric to satisfy the consumers. So understand that, okay, you want to launch something, you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to start with something of your own, but that doesn't really mean that you're going to reinvent the wheel, or you need to reinvent the wheel. That's not going to be the thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, just popping back to your point about the different styles of clothes, this is a perfect example of thinking around branding and why branding is so important. A lot of clothes are made in for one company who are budget, are made in the same factory as a company who are luxury, and the only difference is the last label that's sewn into them, and then they're distributed to different places. So then you say to people, well, why are you buying this when this is the same product, but it's cheaper? And its brand is that we have an emotional connection to it. And that's why I think it's so important, is sort of saying that, again, product service you're offering, great, but it's the brand people are buying. We have an emotional connection to it. It's why, if we hear, we're loving it, we know it's McDonald's, because that's just drilled into us. So I think it's really important to, we sit down, we're thinking about being an entrepreneur. We think, okay, I'm going to do my due diligence, which is really key. We're going to, set out a business plan. We're going to have someone check in on it. We're going to have someone, with fresh eyes look at it for the objectivity. But we also need to look at it and go, okay, so what am I doing? What's my USP? What's my unique selling point? What makes me different? What's the differentiator? Because I think that really does make the difference.
Yes, it's true. It's true. And I personally believe that an entrepreneur who's just starting off really needs to work on it consciously. Like, they really need to sort out their unique selling propositions. And it can be more than one proposition, but it has to be very much there, because that's what's going to kickstart your business. If it's not there, you will have very hard time in getting noticed. And it's you're getting noticed that brings you more business.
It does indeed. And I think, Nousheen, the key word you're saying there is conscious, because as a psychologist and, talking a lot about neurology and neuroscience, we know that a lot of what we do day to day is unconscious. And if we're going to sit down and we're going to potentially start a business and we're going to get out of the corporate rat race, it's really important we make some conscious decisions. We sit down and we really think through it. Now, that might seem obvious. A lot of people might be watching and going, well, yeah, of course you need to think through it. But actually, this is the tricky thing. When you start to look at people's personalities, the people who are more likely to be entrepreneurial are very high on what we call the abstract part of the personality spectrum. So you have conscientious to abstract. Conscientious people are very diligent. They're very detail focused. They're very tenacious. Okay, they'll take their time and they'll look into something and they'll really apply themselves. The people who are more abstract with the big ideas, they want to be free and they want to do these things, but then it might be harder to flex to the other end. So I think maybe another thing that we should talk about is when we go into these situations, you have to know yourself. You have to know whether your strengths are and your limitations are. And as you say, sitting down, whether you're doing your business plan or you're looking at your USP, is to consciously really think about this and define it as best possible, because you're absolutely right, that's what people will buy. And herein lies one of the difficulties about being an entrepreneur. You probably want to be an entrepreneur because you're high in abstract, you're high in what we call openness to new ideas, whereas the other end is closed, and that's like you like the same things, you like stability, whereas openness, we like big ideas and novel things. So these make you great for an entrepreneurial mindset, but actually applying yourself to the mindset, that's a bit tricky. You actually kind of need the traits that these other bit more stable people have. So I think being very aware of your sort of strengths and limitations and your internal personality is really, really key.
Yes, I agree with you. Understanding one's own personality, understanding what one can really do and really do well can make a big difference. And apart from this, I personally believe that before starting off, or even when you have started off, and you've decided, okay, I'm going to sell this to these many people, and these are the groups that I have. This is my consumer segmentation, and that's how I'm going to approach. Okay, everything is decided, all set up, but that doesn't mean you switch it off and you stop thinking. It means you go on studying what people like you are doing in the industry, and you learn from their experiences. Perhaps sometimes by reading about them, by reading about what they've been doing in the past, you learn from their mistakes and you avoid those mistakes and make your own mistakes to understand how your journey is evolving. And
Yes.
this is, I think this is called growth mindset. What do you say?
Yep, absolutely. So I think, three things there I think you're touching on, which are really key: learning, mistakes, and growth. So learning is fundamental, first off, because the second point, you're going to make mistakes. You're absolutely going to make mistakes. And if you're a person who doesn't like making mistakes, then don't be an entrepreneur, because mistakes are how we learn. And the real difference between being an entrepreneur or being in, a corporate is that being an entrepreneur, there are no rules to follow. You literally, a lot of the time, don't know what you're doing. Like, you might know your stuff, whatever your passion, whatever your knowledge is, you might know it, but everything else around it, you don't know. So everything you do is a learning opportunity. Everything you do. You don't get the training that you would in a corporate. They don't sit down and go, Rob, what training would you like to do here this year? Here's a catalogue. Where do you think your strengths and limitations are? And you have a manager who you have a nice discussion with, and they give you some objective information. You're pretty much like, okay, I'm a blank slate. What do I want to do? Where do I want to invest in me? So one of the first things is to go, we need to keep learning, but everything we do is an opportunity to learn. When I come off a successful call with a client, I sit there and I write down what went well and what I could have done better. When I come off an unsuccessful call, I do exactly the same thing, because you've got to build on what you're not good at, and you've got to build on obviously what you are good at and keep doing it. So learning, I think, is really, really key. And then mistakes. Yeah, I was thinking about this before we had the conversation, and thinking, what really makes an entrepreneurial mindset, and it really is having a good relationship with mistakes, not being able to, massively fall into like a ruminative state or self-criticism and self-flagellation when things don't go right, because they're not going to go right. I think we all when we're entrepreneurs kind of hope that if we've got an idea of sort of time and progress, that it's just going to kind of do this, it's just a nice, easy, positive correlation. Over time, things get better and better and better. But then if we think about it, we're like, well, no, probably not, right? Because we're starting off something new. We're not quite sure how it's going to go. So, maybe be more like this. In reality, and I think you'll feel this as well, it's sort of, like that.
Very uneven, yes, and many dips. It's like the first flight. You've taken the leap. You're out in the air. You want to fly, and sometimes you go up, and sometimes you go down. All you need to do is build confidence, and that's what we are going to talk about now. How we can build confidence to take the leap and be successful entrepreneurs. I know it's not going to be successful right from the beginning. You might have a few customers in your first 2 months, and you feel like, oh my God, I'm taking off. But that doesn't mean it's going to consistently be that way. There can be things completely unexpected happening to your brand as you go on evolving. So how do we keep on building and sustaining confidence after the leap?
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, because again, going back to the idea of being in the corporate sphere, what we maybe don't unconsciously realize, but we do get, is regular positive reward. Going through your week, you get things done, you progress, and you're like, great, tick that off the list, tick that off the list. Someone says, well done, you got this done. Now we're moving on to this. Good, I got that done. We're moving on to that. So what that does is that gives you regular positive reinforcement, gives you a nice dopamine kick. You're probably working with other people as well, and you're connecting with them, and you're getting a good sense of like relatedness. So you're getting a nice serotonin, oxytocin kick as well. So in general, you're kind of getting that good amount of positive reinforcement, positive reward, and happy hormones to kind of keep you going. And then you become an entrepreneur, and you might have a week where you have nothing. You have no client interest, you have nothing coming back. And even worse, sometimes you have those weeks where you have all those bites and nothing comes of them. Absolutely nothing comes of them.
Yes.
And they're even harder, because it's not that you're not going through a week and you're getting nothing, you're getting the opposite, you're getting negative. I mean, I can hold my hand up. I came and did for those people watching, I'm based in London, in England, but I came to Dubai last October, ran an event. It was very nice, really enjoyed myself, met some lovely people, and at least 2 or 3 people said, Rob, yeah, great, we need this in our organization, contact me afterwards and let's talk about this. And I was really excited. I was like, brilliant, this is what we hope for, this is what we're looking for, right?
You must be excited. I got some leads. Yay!
Leads, right there, leads, good. Okay, some people actually appreciate that maybe I could offer some value, and just nothing, dead. Like one email, or just one email out and one email back, and then nothing, silence, or indeed just no email back at all. And you just, it's very difficult not to just take that really personally and go, oh my God, what have I done? But I think actually it's more indicative of the times that we live in, where we are so overly connected with each other through technology that we leave people, on read on WhatsApp or whatever our, social media might be. I feel like we have more fickle relationships than when we just use the phone or meet in person. So that will happen. That will absolutely happen. And as I say, so you're not always getting, going back to my first point, you're not always getting the positive reward as you go through your week externally. You're not getting it from clients necessarily. So a key thing you have to do is you have to come back to yourself and go, okay, how do I define success or progress? All right.
Yeah.
When this all happened for me, overnight, I'm self-employed, obviously. This is why we're talking about it. I lost 80% of my work. Gone, just like that. So I'm sitting here panicking, going, I don't know how I'm going to pay the mortgage. I've got a 2-year-old daughter. This is a bit tricky. And you start to get into a bit of a panic. So I said, okay, realistically, what am I going to do now? Am I going to pick up the same number of clients as I did before? No, just not at all. And if I do, and I try that and I fail, I'm just going to be disappointed. I'm going to really struggle with that. So what did I do? Well, I came back to saying, okay, I am going to start by using my creativity to build a new product on top of what I already do, but build something new, something related to this COVID situation, to lockdown that companies can use. I'm going to think about defining success into how many new clients I can just connect with, LinkedIn, whatever it might be, and just start a conversation with each week. And so little goals like that we chunk, that gives you an intrinsic sense of reward, and you need that when you're not getting it extrinsically, and that will take you through the small times. But going back to what you said earlier, it's conscious. It really needs to be conscious planning, because it's very easy to forget about that and go, I've got no clients, what's going on.
Especially during this COVID-19 situation. Yes, I agree with you. A lot of people, like a couple of my friends who've just started, like I said in the beginning, they just started their business, and they came up and said, we just don't know what to do, because we weren't ready with all our stuff. Some of the products and services were not defined fully, and now we don't know. We're totally at a loss how to make a sale, and if we don't make a sale, it's a terrible situation. So I believe that when you're not completely ready, There's no point in panicking. Understand the situation you're in and what people might be expecting from someone like you. Study what people like yourself are doing in the industry. Impersonate your work. Bring your own, like you said before, Rob, bring your own personality to what you're offering to people so that they're able to understand you more, connect with you more, and buy from you. This is the way. But it's very, very important for every entrepreneur to define the product or the service fully so that people know that it's answering a specific need and they can take it. If they are not persuaded that this is something that answers their need, you will not have a sale.
Yep, I totally agree. And I guess the thing I'd add to that is be able to define it very, very clearly, but accept that okay is good enough. I know when this all happened and I started putting together my offerings, and my wife said to me, just get on with the marketing. Like it's been a week now. Like people need it now. This has happened now. People need it now. Get on with it. And I said, no. You know, I've got to get this right. You know, my marketing material has got to be spot on. My, you know, learning objectives and, you know, the agenda for any training that I provide has got to be, you know, really concrete. People are going to know what they're going to buy. And she said, no. She said, look, I'm a perfectionist. That's what I would do. And I know that's not right. Okay is good enough. Get out there, sell yourself, get that across to people, let them see the value you offer. If there's a few dots and, you know, crosses of I's and crosses of T's and dots of I's missing, people overlook that stuff. They just want to know that you're offering something. So I think, yeah, be very clear on the definition and the value of what you're offering, but get it out there. You know, get out there and get moving. If you're the type of person who wants everything to be, you know, right, like you could be waiting forever. And we often fall back on that, and it's actually an avoidant behavior. If you're going to be entrepreneurial, you have to be able to navigate through uncertainty. Like it is there all of the time, and you can never be sure. Or if I just do this, you know, it's like I'm good, I'm ready to go. Yeah, great. Right, no, because there's going to be something else. There's going to be something else that gets in the way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, navigating uncertainty.
Yes, actually, in all kinds of businesses, whatever products and services, regardless of their nature, that a business and an entrepreneur offers to its people, it's important to note that it's the purchase decisions are behavior and need centric, and they will keep on changing. So you cannot say that if I predicted something about consumer behavior now, it means that for next 10 months I'm going to be successful and I'll be able to make this exact number of sales. It's not possible. So in order to build your confidence after you've taken the lead, please do not assume things in a very longer period. Like don't stretch it over months and expect the same cycle to repeat itself over months, because that's a mistake.
Yeah.
You need to go by smaller slots of time period and understand consumer behavior over your products and your services. That will help you understand people more and be confident about what you're selling. Definitely. Secondly, like you said, that we do not need to let go of faith in what we are doing, and we should be consistently doing it. Should keep on going. We should not think that, okay, since we are perfectionists, we want things to be absolutely great. And we will let people know once we achieve that level of greatness. It's not going to happen. It will only delay your work. It will delay your business sales.
Definitely. You know, my early days, I was like, right, this is I'm doing this area of psychology, and I do it for about 4 months and not get much traction, and go, you know what? No, this is my USP. This is what I'm really doing. And, you know, a couple of months, no traction. Do you know what? No, it's this. And you can rebrand 1,000 times, but the best thing, as you say, is to double down and go, right, this is what I'm doing. And you need to persevere. This is where the conscientious side comes in, and you need to go hard. You need to just keep going with it. You need to persevere. I think that's really, really important. And then that first point you picked up on, I think that's really key as well, because that's a fundamental distinction between corporates and entrepreneurs / startups. You know, big corporates often look at startups and go, you know, how have they got this growth? You know, they must know their customers so well and be able to predict that X, Y, and Z is going to happen, and this is what they need. And it's not about that. The reason startups do so well is because they're often smaller and they're agile. So they don't look so far ahead, but they modify and they adjust what they do to suit the needs that change so quickly. Whereas these big corporates are trying to, you know, forecast 2-5 years and spend millions of pounds trying to forecast when the world is totally, like, I don't know if you've heard the VUCA acronym, but, you know, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. I mean, that just sums it up. So if you're an entrepreneur and you try to do that, which is understandable because you want some more certainty. So I'm going to think 6 months, you know, a year, 2 years ahead. You're going to be disappointed. Like it's great to have a rough idea of where we're going, but your mind should be, if we're talking about mindset, your mind should be focused on, you know, the foreseeable future. What can I plan for now? You know, because things change so much. I mean, look at now, if you're a car, I mean, I can only talk about the UK because this is where we are. But if you're a car manufacturer right now, a lot of people are just not using their cars. So what are we going to do? Bicycles, they're sold out around the country. I mean, the price gouging going through the roof because everyone's like, I want a bike, I want to get around. How did you know that was going to happen? How did you know that was going to come? What's going to happen in 4 months? Does everyone suddenly go back to work and no one's using bikes anymore? Like you from now on, there's no new normal. So you can't project ahead, really. All you can do is be very agile. What's happening right now? Has that changed? People not interested? Good. You know, what am I doing? I'm offering protein. Suddenly everyone turns around and goes, oh, do you know what? Research has just, you know, I'm selling protein. Research has just shown that it gives you cancer. No one's buying it anymore. Right. What are you going to do now? I'd planned 2 years ahead in the future that it was going to be this steady growth. Nope, it's changed. So the agility, it's the agility that really makes a difference.
Yes. And secondly, you're absolutely right about agility. And secondly, when you are making mistakes, I'm repeating it. When you're making mistakes, okay, don't feel disheartened. Don't feel that, okay, I'm not able to sell. Perhaps I'm not a good entrepreneur, because we often get into this discussion, this self-talk and blaming ourselves and feeling guilty. Oh my God, I did this and I did that, and it's such a blunder and I'm so bad at that. No, that's going to kill your confidence.
Yeah.
There's no good, there's no bad, there's no pretty, no ugly in business.
No, that it happens. And you know, here I am talking about entrepreneurial mindset like I'm some sort of expert, but it was only last week I made a stupid error. My wife and I share, we look after our daughter together on a Friday, and we kind of balance work between us. And it's really tricky, as I'm sure you know. And I take a Friday afternoon, and I had a call with a potential client at LinkedIn, you know, big potential client, and they said, could you do Friday at 5? And I said, yeah, that's fine, but I've got my daughter with me, could we make it informal? And they were like, yeah, fine. And at the start I was like, actually, this might work quite well, because you know, I can show my human side. But what it really meant was that I was trying to bond with them, with my daughter running around here, and I just couldn't. And you know, came off the call, and I just thought, that's not gone well. That's not quite right. You know, very pleasant to me, but that's not gone right. And then lo and behold, you get the email through going, we're just going to take a bit of time to think about it. And you're just like, oh, you know, heart was in the right place, but you know, the execution wasn't good. And it's my fault for not sitting there and going, informal as you like, Rob, and they may feel it's informal, you're still selling yourself, and you need to be totally attuned, because these things don't come around often. But as you say, you can't beat yourself up too much, or you can just come out of it. And my key learning is, you know, any informal chat is informal to the other person perhaps, but you should be thinking formally. You should be thinking about, who am I? How am I coming across? What am I selling? What's the value? You know, how am I trying to influence them? So yeah, lots of mistakes, and you've got to roll with it. You've got to roll with it. And it's one more thing that you go, okay, that doesn't work, so I'm getting more on track. And something else happens, okay, that doesn't work. Now I'm almost funneling down the right thing to do.
Exactly. Like, you should not let your mistakes and your blunders steal your energy from you.
No.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like,
and there's
you know,
real potential too. You know, it's very easy to do. I mean, what I'd say is that it's okay to give yourself an evening to sit there and just kind of put your head in your hand and think, oh, why did I do that? But once you've got over that evening and you wake up the next morning, it's like, right, now what am I going to do? You have to consciously, that word you said right at the beginning is so key. You've got to consciously let go of that, because that can eat you up.
It's good to it's good to give yourself a break. It's
Yeah.
good to even empathize with people, but it's best to step into other people's shoes to understand what they must be thinking. And same goes for your client. If you understand your client very well, and you have this ability to instead of assuming, actually get into their shoes and understand what they must be thinking, what they must be going through, what could be involved in their decision making process, you might be able to understand things better and perhaps have good conversation, more meaningful, more productive conversations with them. What do you think about that, Rob? Do you believe that we need to be a little bit of psychologists to be successful entrepreneurs?
Yes. Yeah, basically, I really do. I really do. I'm probably obviously biased because I'm a psychologist, but um, I remember when I moved from B2C to B2B. So I'd run a successful private practice in psychology and executive coaching for years, and word of mouth recommendations, directories, people would come to me, no problem. So when I transferred across to B2B, I was like, oh, this business stuff's easy. Let me think about the product I'm going to do. It's going to look like this. It's going to be great because it does this. Suddenly, no one's ringing me up. No one's coming through the door. And I realized that actually it doesn't just happen. You have to put a lot in. So, I mean, there's a learning point in itself. I'd like to think I know a lot about psychology, and that's where my value is, and that's where my credibility lies. But I've had to become a marketer. I've had to become a salesperson. I've had to become a business manager. All of this stuff you have to do. It's not just about that original product or service. But the other thing is going back to kind of the idea of business is what I found was that business is about people. It is just about people. Yeah, it's product, services, blah, blah, blah. It's people. It's relationship based. And once you can meet people and you get to know them, again, they buy you. So what we have to then do is realize any contact we have with any potential client is the most valuable thing we can have. That's where we get to really bond with people and get to know them. Now, again, if you're more of a product base, if you are an affiliate marketer, or you're selling something on Amazon, difficult to individually and personally get to know your customers, perhaps. So you have to pay more attention to customer trends and a bit of data. But if you're running any kind of business where you're connecting with people, that's fundamental. You've got to get inside their head. And one of the biggest things I see is, I'm meeting with you, you're a potential client, and I'm listening to you, and I'm so desperate to tell you how fantastic my product is that I'm not taking time to listen to you and to ask the questions. I've noticed myself, if I sit down with a new potential client and I just ask them questions about the pain, how am I going to fix their pain? What's the pain point? What's that like? How is that difficult? What happens because of that? You can ask 100 questions and not make any statement about what you do, and they'll go, yeah, I think this could be really good. And you're sitting there going, I haven't said what I do. Like, we've just fixed your pain by asking all these questions. But you only get there through the emotional intelligence. You only get there through empathy. So going back to that point about knowing yourself, about what your identity, your personality. If you're a very conscientious, detailed person, but you can be a bit more task focused and people focused, when you go into these situations, you've got to dial that up. You've got to really make the emphasis on the relationship. And if you're very people based, great, fantastic, use that. But then remember, if you are then going to sell a product or service, use your credibility, go back to the task. It's about balancing those up. But yeah, I fundamentally be a bit of a psychologist, read up on books about influencing, about getting to know people, using your emotional intelligence, questioning. Questioning's key.
That's the key. Yeah. So how do we prepare for challenges? We have already discussed that a forecast in this time is not possible. The maximum you can do is perhaps think about a couple of weeks in a row, because perhaps after a couple of weeks, the people's behavior and preferences might change. So you might have to pivot again. So coming to the point where we need to prepare, what do you think is a good strategy? When we have already discussed that forecast is difficult these days.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think some of the due diligence that you do before you get into this. So when I when I decided to go from my first office job into being self-employed, I took myself to the worst case scenario. I was like, okay, so what happens if you don't have any clients? Like, what are you going to do? Can you cope with it? And I think so. Before you start anything, you've got to go to that worst place. Now, once you've done that and you're doing whatever you do, you don't need to keep going to that worst place, because that's not going to do you any favors. That's just going to make you feel less confident, and that's going to eat you up and take away your capacity. But at the start, you've got to go, okay, if this all falls flat, can I manage? And at the time, I was willing to give it a try. I was single, I was by myself, I was younger. I knew I had options. Would I do it? Would I jump into something totally new now when I've got a wife and a baby and a house and a mortgage? Maybe not so much, and I'm quite pro risk. But I think the due diligence and taking yourself to the worst case is where you start, because then later on, when those barriers hit, when things get a bit tricky, you don't panic so much, because your brain's going, I've expected this to a degree. I've kind of been here. We knew this might happen. So you have a little bit more internal confidence. So I think that's one of the first things.
Do you think we should expect the worst always? Do you think it's good to expect the worst and be ready for it?
I think so. There's a lot of science on this. It's really interesting. There is something called what's called defensive pessimism. All right. Now, defensive pessimism is exactly that. It's let's prepare for the worst, because if it happens, I'm prepared. So cool. I'm happy. I can sit back and go, yeah, no worries. I expected it. And then, if something does go well, wow, great, because it's that bonus. Okay. And so that logic makes perfect sense, but it doesn't work. The way neurologically our brains work is that if we're looking for the worst and it happens, we just kind of go, oh, I was looking for it and it did happen. So we're already in kind of a threat state, and our brain's kind of shutting down almost and decreasing activity. And if something goes better, because we've been looking at the negative, we don't get the kind of happy hormone boost that we're hoping for. So the logic makes a lot of sense, but defensive pessimism, it doesn't do us any good. Part of what makes us good as entrepreneurs is we're often very optimistic. Use that optimism. Let's not make it unrealistic, but something that's called learned realistic optimism. And I'd say, have a look at that, do a Google on it, some learned realistic optimism. That can be very healthy for us. And that can keep us carrying on. Even if things don't go well, we still feel like we can keep going and persevere. The only thing we've got to be a little bit careful of, and this is, I do a lot of work with organizations, particularly leaders, is on our biases, because we are very biased creatures, very, very biased creatures. Now, none of us think we're as biased as everyone else, and that in itself is called a blind spot bias, but we are. And what can happen is our optimism can actually end up being a little bit of delusion, and we're like, oh, that's okay, never mind, I'll carry on and do this because I'm sure it's the right thing. And it's like, no, you need to change something. You've probably gone too far. It's probably not quite right, which is why it's always good to have someone who's a little bit objective, okay, who's not going to constantly say, no, you're doing the wrong thing. But if something hasn't gone quite right and you want to carry on with it, they can say, yeah, I think you should, or actually, no, maybe hold off a little bit. Okay. But on the whole, optimism correlates with success, bottom line. And that's what makes us great as entrepreneurs. We are often optimistic. So play on it, build on it. Don't get dragged into the pessimism.
Right. Yeah. So, as an entrepreneur, I've always struggled with negotiation. And seriously, I always felt that this is something I really need to improve. And I've always wanted someone to advise me and, to tell me how exactly to win over things and how to take charge of things and negotiate so well that I don't end up feeling like, oh my God, why did I do that? Why I wasn't saying this and not that? So how do you think we can have good negotiation skills?
Okay, so that's a tricky one. I think I'll start by saying I am no sales expert, and there are a lot of good salespeople out there. but I can talk a little bit about the psychology and obviously my own experience as well. So one of the things that we sometimes do is we undersell ourselves. All right, so we go in very low because we're so keen on making the sale or whatever the sale is, that we kind of undersell ourselves, and we think, but that's okay because I'm not thinking about profit. I just want to kind of build this. And sometimes it works, but sometimes it doesn't. I remember a business advisor once saying to me, he's like, never give anything away for free. Never do like a free session or anything like that. And you see, you totally agree with that, and I can understand the premise as well. Having said that, I recently did a free session for a
and I have done many free sessions.
Right, and I did one for sales team.
I don't know how it is in the UK, but in Dubai, a lot of free sessions happen, and many entrepreneurs go for that, considering that perhaps it's a step towards creating good funnel.
Yeah.
But too many free sessions, I personally believe, are not a great idea.
Yeah.
Because they will not take you anywhere at all.
Yeah, I think you have to set rules for yourself, right? So if I'm going to offer a free session, so when I do training facilitation, I'll happily do a free 90-minute session with you. After that, you've got to pay, because and that's a rule. No, it doesn't matter if it's this client or this client or this client. It's like, that's the rule, because there'll always be a reason to go, okay, well, for these guys, I'll just give them that one more. And unfortunately, how it works from a psychological point of view is that diminishes our value for the other person. They know that you're giving something to them for free, and if you do it again, then they start to think, actually, this isn't worth that much. I mean, unconsciously, but they still think that isn't worth that much, or they would be putting a price on it and be a bit more forceful. But like I say, we worry that we're going to be turned down. We worry we're going to be turned away. We can get a little bit desperate because we haven't seen what we're hoping for. So make a rule for yourself. It's I give something for free once, and then I look for the sale. Again, we've got to think about. I know some of your viewers will be B2C, some will be B2B, some will be service, some will be product. Yeah. So I don't know about product necessarily. But having said that, I've got friends who are influencers, and they often get sent free products, and that helps really build a brand and build a relationship with clients as well. But it'll probably only be one free product or something.
Yeah, it should be limited. It should be very limited. I believe that it's completely okay to monetize your products and services. It's very, very ethical to charge your clients, because you're running a business. And business ethics ask you to be active in business. And being active means you're charging. So go ahead, give your best value, charge for it.
Yeah. If it's valuable, they'll pay it. They'll pay it. Get a benchmark for what's going on. The lovely thing about the internet is you can find it. If you're a executive coach, and you're thinking, client said to you, oh, we'd like you to do executive coaching with 4 of our senior leaders, how much are you going to charge? You can sit there and go, I've got no idea about budget. Somewhere online, there will be a benchmark, get it within there. But you're absolutely right. We've got to charge, we've got value, we can add it. But I also think what's nice now is I don't know what it's called there. In the UK, we're calling it the gig economy. Now, the gig economy okay, good, and it's valuable because organizations are realizing that we don't have to hire people who are going to kind of be a bit of almost a wasted resource when it's a bit quiet. You have to pay all their national insurance and PAYE and etc. It's better that we pull someone in for a contract for 6 months or this or we just need to launch a new product, so we'll go to an individual who's in PR and hire them for a month or even a week. So the gig economy has a load of benefits, and if you look at the data, people are transitioning into that more and more. And what's great about that is that then it means that organizations are realizing the value behind it, and they're more likely to invest money in it. And they will pay. They will pay. You know, if they have to go and get permission from their manager or whoever the, you know, CFO might be, they will go, well, I've looked into this. This is valuable. This is why, and they'll pay it. But it comes from us putting that foot forward. And again, it goes back to the idea of being entrepreneurs. You've got to be okay with uncertainty and risk. You've got to be able to take it. So yeah, it is risky, but we've got to do it.
Yes, we have to do it, and there has to be a proper strategy for it. Like, we can keep on testing what's happening and keep on improvising on what we're doing.
Yep.
There's always room to change, room to readjust. This is what agility is all about.
It is absolutely. And you know, I think then when it comes down to practicalities, you can play with it a little bit. So a couple of things just from psychology that might be quite useful. So there is a foot in the door tactic. Now, the foot in the door tactic is kind of as it sounds. To get your foot in the door, offer something quite small or cheap, you know, or even free. And then once you're in, you can kind of open it up a bit. There is also a door in the face tactic where you offer something which is so ridiculous that people are like, oh, I'm not paying that at all. And then you come down and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's more reasonable. It might not be reasonable, but the fact that that first number was so big, they think that that number is reasonable, you know? So there's always that. It's brave, but you could give it a go. So there's a couple of things like that. Options are good. People like options. When you sort of go to pitch someone and go, okay, so, you know, for this, it's going to be this. You know, they'll be like, is it not? You know, people never like the first number, like no matter what it is, they really just don't like it. But when they look on a page, and often, you know, the magic number is 3 psychologically for some reason. It's like, you know, we can do, let's say I'm running a leadership program. It can be this and this many modules over this month for this, or we can add this and take this out and it's this, or we can do this and this and it's this. It's less about that your mind sort of goes, it's less about is that acceptable or not, and it's more about which one is acceptable. You know, your brain's almost for it, is it not, to which one shall I go for? So again, if you're pitching to a client, I think have that in your mind as well. Offer options rather than that just, you know, one number that you're thinking of.
Options could be a great tool, and this stands true for all kinds of businesses. Today, Rob, somebody was asking me, what should event industry or people who were running events and were monetizing their whatever activities were there through events, how should they charge for an online virtual event? Because everything is now virtual, and there are X number of webinars going on for free.
Yep.
So what shall they do?
Yeah, I, you know, totally feel for the person who's asked you that, because I've been very much in the same situation. And again, so this is by the sound of it, this is much more B2C type stuff. This is that we are pitching it to the public essentially. And what we've got to realize is there's no necessity for them to, it's not like mandatory training that your company's sending you on. This is like, do I want to invest in this? Now, the first thing I'd say is that if you think, if I can sit here and go, I know loads about psychology, I could run a great public course on confidence, so I could sell it, it's unlikely. One thing I've learned from the sort of the marketing side of things is that you need a following. So the first thing I'd say is that if you are genuinely thinking about doing this as a one-off or as a career, the marketing and sales side of it is key, and you need to utilize every bit of social media you can to, again, not even sell your product, but sell you. If I sit here and people like me and I say I'm running a resilience course or an anxiety course, it doesn't matter about the course. If they like me, they'll go on to it. So the first thing I say to people is, you know, you need to build that audience. The second thing is I've noticed from what I've done and what I've seen other people do as well, is that you, and this is personal insight, I can't say there's research to back this up that I know of, but if you can get people in through going, there's a free 60-minute seminar that I'm running virtually, you can get those people in, and then you can sell that to them later on, and they're much more likely to invest because they go, I can see this person, they're fantastic, you know, Nousheen really knows her stuff, great, I'll pay for the next one. But if you think those people are going to pay You know, when exactly that, you know, they'll go on Eventbrite, and Eventbrite will go, there's 20 events tonight and they're all on the same thing, and you know, 9 of them are free and 15
Too
of them
many.
are paid for.
Especially these days, too many are going on. So what you can do, what I believe is that perhaps put up a small course on Udemy
Yes.
and market that through your webinar.
Mm-hmm.
That can actually have some conversion for you and can bring you some clients who are willing to buy from you. If you will try to sell the webinar, is not, I don't believe it's going to happen. For example, one of my very good friends, very close friends, started off with, he runs some institution related to some business sales and stuff. So what they did was his team set up a webinar worth $300 in the beginning, and perhaps they weren't getting any conversion on that. So it ended up becoming a free webinar for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is that people during these times, during this period of COVID-19, are going to invest into something they really, really, really need, desperately need. So address that desperate need, then
Yes,
monetize.
definitely.
If
Yeah,
it's
you
not
know,
needed, yes. And if everybody is providing that, and you don't have a point that differentiates you, that shows that they should buy from you, it's not going to happen.
yeah.
So you will end up giving it away for free as an offering rather than anything that they can buy.
Definitely. Yeah. It goes back to that thing, doesn't it? It's about what's our value and what are we selling. You look at Tony Robbins. Now, I love Tony Robbins, but you listen to what he's saying. It's no different than any other life coach or psychologist is saying, but it's the way he says it, and you know, you buy into his brand. So I think, yeah, you need to be selling that. Something else you touched on as well was kind of the money side of things. What I would say to people, sort of aside from psychology and just a general tip I've learned, is be very cautious about what you invest your money in. So being an entrepreneur, there are peaks and troughs, and when the peaks are good, great, put that money away, because wow, there's going to be some troughs and you're not going to have any money. So you know, when the going's good, fantastic, don't start going off buying those Rolexes. Put that money aside for when it goes down. But you know, if you're thinking of running a an event, and you know, you go on people per hour, or you go on LinkedIn and you see these people going, oh, I can fill your events for £100 or however many dirham, whatever it might be, and you think, well, that's a nice shortcut. Be very cautious, because they're not based on results. You know, they'll always say, we can't promise it, but you know, this is what we're going to do, and they wow you, and before you know it, you've parted with your cash. So be very wary of those. Always try your own thing first. And if you do it and you wanted 100 people, but you get 10, okay, you've got 10. Bond with those people on that call as much as you can, or on that training session as much as you can. Get to know them. What's that? One of you works for a company, and you know, you think your colleagues might like it. Brilliant. Let me do a session for you, right? What you can trade with as an entrepreneur is time. That's one thing often you'll have in abundance, is time. I can do a free session here. I can jump on, do a session here. I can have a phone call with you there. Money can be tighter. So I'd say be cautious about money, but yeah, give up your time. You know, do things like this just to have conversations with people and for people to see you. People look to bond. We love bonding. We want to belong. So get yourself out there and let people see you. Definitely.
Yeah, and if you do it consistently, you'll be able to build a tribe. And then your tribe will talk about the wonderful things you do, and that will help you make more conversion on what you're selling.
Definitely.
Easy.
And I think consistency, really important point. And that's what I really respect about what you do, is your consistency. It's like one night of the week, there's going to be a LinkedIn live. You can put bottom line, you know it's going to be there. You know that I know from you that the material you're putting out is consistent. You know, it's not like I'm going to watch you one day and watch you another day and go, what is, you know, what's she talking about? One day it was this and it's this. It's like there is some sort of consistency to all of it. People love belonging, but people love consistency. And if you look at any kind of like YouTube stars, they will always talk about the fact they've got to get content out and content regularly, because we want to know where that is. We want to know where are they? Give me this connection that I'm so looking for, you know? So yeah, consistency is key as well. Definitely.
Yes, true, true. I agree with you. Thank you so much for complimenting me, Rob.
Very
I
welcome.
felt so amazing when you did that.
Well, you got to learn from each other. You got to learn from each other. A big thing about entrepreneurship is humility. Is that you got to have the confidence to go, I can do this, but also the humility to go, well, there's probably a lot of stuff I just don't know here, and I've got to learn from other people. I've got to learn
Yes,
from other people. So I
true,
definitely
true.
take that from you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for being with us today, Rob. I really enjoyed our conversation, and all that energy coming from you was amazing. Seriously, I loved it. And let's do something more together so that more people are able to benefit from your experiences and whatever knowledge you can impart.
That'd be fantastic. Thank you very much. No, it's been great talking to you. I really enjoyed my time. Thank you.
Have a good evening. Take care.
And you.
Bye.
Take care. Bye bye.